Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Rohan Khandelwal, your Marrow Surgery faculty, and I have the great pleasure of introducing Dr. Shashwat to all of you. He secured rank 2 in the recently conducted INI-CET exam. He was, celebrating with his family last night, so we have him fresh in the morning today to discuss his preparation strategy with all of you. Heartiest congratulations, Dr. Shashwat.
Thank you, sir. You've been a great
Has
inspiration
it?
all throughout the preparation.
Thank you. Has it finally sunk in, the rank which you got?
No, not yet.
Okay, great. So you just finished your internship from MAMC, and this was your first attempt at INI-CET, and you've got this rank. Why don't you take us through your Marrow journey? When did you start, and how did you go about Plan C when you took it?
So I started with Marrow in the beginning of my third prof, part one, the 2022. So initially, I first completed all the third year subjects, the ENT, Optha, and PSM, and then like I used to watch videos. It was my goal, like every day, 2 to 3 videos after coming from college in the evening. I'll have to watch at least these videos, and within 2 to 3 days, I'll complete those subjects by self revision of the notes. Which I know I just preferred handmade notes. I didn't use for the initially when major subjects. I prefer handwritten notes. Later on, obviously, for some subjects when final year and internship, which I did. So for those, I used printed notes because of the paucity of time. So I tried to
Perfect.
complete third year subjects and all, and like medicine, half not medicine but surgery, OBG, and half of the short subjects I completed in third year itself.
Excellent. So I think so that's a very typical strategy for which I've seen students in North India practicing, that in third year they finish the third year subjects plus they do around 15 to 20% of final year subjects, so that they're not burdened with the course in final year. And in final year, then they're left with a few months of revision because they finish all their course well in time before their professional exams. Uh,
Yeah.
Two questions which I want to ask Shashwat. Number one, you said for certain subjects you had Marrow notes, for certain subjects you had handmade notes. What was the difference? Because a lot of students ask us this, so it is best that they hear from you. What was the difference in terms of retention, in terms of how much time it took to make those notes?
Time, definitely it took more to make the handmade notes, because even while watching the videos I'll have to I had to pause at some points where like the faculty had just explained and they had just written everything, and so I just first understood, then I paused, then I copied it. So obviously it took me some more time as compared to the printed notes or the ready-made notes, which I just could read it along with the videos. But retention was much more better. Like those subjects which I studied from the handmade notes, like surgery, OBG, and medicine. So those I had better retention as compared to the those who had studied from mainly from the handmade notes. Obviously, like it could be like I studied them later, so that's why only I preferred handmade notes for them. But the retention was definitely better with handmade notes.
So, if I ask you a simple question, was it worth it making those handmade notes when you had time in third year and final year?
Yeah, if there's time, then it's worth it.
I would also agree. And I think so when you have time in third year and fourth year, it's a worthwhile exercise to do, even if you do it for a few subjects like Dr. Shashwat did. My second question, Dr. Shashwat, is when you were watching these videos and you were revising the notes, were you doing the QBank simultaneously or you left the QBank till internship?
Uh, for few subjects, I did it simultaneously. Few subjects I did it in internship. Majorly, but
Fair
most
enough.
of the subjects, most of the topics I did along with the revision, along with the videos I watched.
Great. So again, I think so very good practice to do questions once you're revising your notes, and that reinforces the subject, and then you can again reset your QBank and do it again during internship, and that just helps in the revision process. Perfect. So Shashwat, this was your third and fourth year. How did you approach your internship? How did you use Marrow during internship?
Yeah, so during internship, like because it was a new experience, and internship at MAMC is very
Very hectic.
strenuous and tough. So initially I didn't like, it was tiring, and so I don't get much time. But then initially I mainly focused on the QBank. I like all those subjects which are left, I completed those from the QBank. I practiced the questions, and then I started studying I started revising gradually. Like in my lighter postings, I completed all the subjects which I had not studied, particularly first and prof and second prof subjects, which I had not focused more on initially. So those I completed, and then later on, when my heavy postings were over, so then I started from revising the notes. Mainly, I focused on the main notes only. for few subjects, I also use the revision notes in the end, but mainly from the main notes I revised. So, and QBank and TYQs I focused throughout.
Okay, so again, this I have been asking all toppers because this is a very common question which we get. How did you deal with the change in edition? A lot of students start worrying about it. They have that FOMO factor. How did you deal with the change of editions?
Uh, I just I for those subjects which like the faculty used to put up like these are the changes, so major changes. So I used to
Hmm.
look up at those subjects, or if there's any recent updates, I used to look in the recent updates. And like a subject like PSM, in which a lot of updates happened last year, so those subjects saw from again from the edition 8. Obviously, from the I only looked the the revision notes and the main only the notes, not the I didn't see the videos. But majorly I focused mainly on what I had studied earlier, because I thought that because I think that mainly it just stays the same eventually, because the concepts are the same, the updates happen only few, so they are also updated, but largely the concept remains the same.
Fair enough. So I think so. Don't get into that FOMO trap. Follow what the faculty is saying. Look at the updates. Stick to your old notes, and other things would also get covered up in the question banks because the new updates would become a part of the Q bank as well. Dr. Shashwat, you want to take up medicine now, so I'm assuming medicine must have been your favorite subject while you were studying.
Yeah, I definitely like
So,
people used to Rakesh sir teaches quite like he teaches very fast and like he teaches too much, but I just had full faith in Rakesh sir, and he made me fall in love with medicine. Like even here at MAMC, I once after internship thought that it's so difficult, but Rakesh sir and all his videos, the way he used to teach, that was just perfect.
great, great. Okay, so moving on to the Q Bank, you finished your Q Bank during your internship. I have two questions which I want to ask you. A lot of students ask me, what do toppers do during your internship? So, can you just go through a typical day in a heavy posting in internship and a light posting in internship? What was your approach to your study during that period?
So, like in heavy postings, like in medicine or OBG, which we had here, the most heaviest. So in those postings, like if I had a more day duty, so I'll go in the morning for the duty and I'll complete all the work. And in between, if I get some time, so like I downloaded the app in the phone, so I'll source in QBank, or I'll go through some notes. Or the ready-made notes for those subjects whom I studied from the printed notes. So I just revise them from the notes which I had on the phone, and
Okay.
or I look at the pearls. So that all I'll do. And then if I had an off that day, or in the evening when I come back, then I try to depending on how much I'm tired, so I then try to study at least something. So like I tried that it's not a whole day goes waste except on the emergency days, but so at least I study and something on that day in the heavy postings. In the lighter postings, like so while going, like I mainly did my internship from home. So while going on the metro, I used to study something. I'll do the QBank, or I just will watch some of the videos of those subjects like biochem. I had not watched before internship, so all the videos of biochem I had watched in my lighter postings while going in the metro and coming back in the metro. And then and like
Perfect.
after the posting, I stayed in the college in my room or in the library. I studied a few things, and in the evening when I come back, then again I just revise it. And other subjects like those handmade notes who I prepared, so those subjects I then revise in the evening. And that was the typical routine. And QBank I'd solve simultaneously of those subjects which I'd revised, and within 1 to 2 days it was like I had to solve the QBank of that particular topic.
Perfect. So I think it's a perfect utilization of time. I mean, even and this is great when you're traveling and instead of just browsing on reels or other things, you were utilizing that time to do questions or watching videos, which would then help in your future performance. Dr. Shashwat, I'm sure as a topper, what I can gather right now is that you were very focused. You had a plan and you were sticking to your plan. But even the best of us, when we make plans, sometimes we are unable to keep up with it, right? So if you were not keeping up with your plan, if you were lagging behind, how would you motivate yourself or how would you play catch up? Or would you spend extra days to catch up that subject, or would you leave that subject there and move on to another subject?
No, like first, like you asked motivation, so I kept myself motivated that no, I have to try my best, and I have to do it this year itself, the first attempt. And so even if it was left, like it was a bad day or something happened, I was not able to complete my target, I just tried to focus, and then I completed that subject only. Like what I had decided, I'll not leave it then for another day. I just completed. Next day I'll complete. I'll shift my schedule for one day ahead, but I'll then complete it that day itself. Or I'll try to in any other day, like I'll make a buffer day. So on buffer day I'll then complete it, and which will help to at least by some to cover up whatever had time I'd lost. So
Perfect. All right. So the QBank, when you were solving, were you putting a target on yourself during internship that this is the number of rights which I want to get in the QBank, or this is what I'm targeting, or were you just using it as a learning tool by solving and then reading the explanations thoroughly?
so both, like I said, my target that at least I have to get 80%, preferably 90, but
Perfect.
at least 80% correct. And I also used to study or read all the explanations, particularly of those which had got wrong. So after that solved the QBank, I'll immediately open, after like the module ended, I immediately then again opened that I'll select filtered the incorrect ones, and then I only filter enter it because it takes time to then go through all the questions. So I'll filter the incorrect I saw, and I'll read the explanation for incorrect and why all the options like what they have mentioned, so that I'll go through. That helps in revising also, and obviously it helps to then like next time it helps to like next time I'll not repeat the mistake again.
Okay. So supposing you weren't hitting your target, supposing you were at 70% for some module, or say 75 or 65%, did you go back to the notes of that subject to revise your concepts again? Or did you just use the QBank explanations to reinforce your concepts?
Mainly the QBank explanations, but if I was finding like in a particular subject, if 2 or 3 modules I'm been getting this type kind of course, then I'll go and study.
Can you
If it
give
doesn't
some
one,
examples, Dr. Shashwat? Can you give some examples of those modules so that students can gain insights from it?
like I remember in surgery when I was doing GI, so few modules, like 2 or 3 modules, which consecutively I had got around below 65%. So I then thought that no, I have not then like I'm not. It's not that it's the questions are all difficult. It's like I have not properly prepared. So then I just went back, I revised the entire GI, and then I started the modules. I paused the modules at that time, and then I did that.
Okay.
But in few, like if majority once it happens, then it is outliers. So probably so that is just like questions are more difficult for that module or that topic. So that then I just only prefer on the explanations itself.
Perfect. And how did you deal with your bookmarked questions?
Bookmark questions I used to, but I didn't focus them on initially, but later on towards the end of the internship, then I started focusing subject wise on the bookmark but questions. So particularly those subjects which I knew that I would bookmark these questions because I had not because it's not that these questions are difficult or like they're less common, yes, but these questions are I had not got them correct, so or I didn't know that topic, or so those questions I look first, particularly, and especially for those which are more important, like the medicine, surgery, the long subjects. And so I focused on those, and then like the questions which I revised again and again, and those questions which used to get correct, then I removed them from the bookmark, so that so as to filter them out. So, and I used
Yeah,
to
so I
bookmark
think so
only.
that's a valuable exercise. I'm sorry, you were complete. Please complete.
Yeah, I was saying I just bookmarked only those questions like which I knew, like only more than 30% of the uh, applicants or those people who attended them had got them right. So because less than 25% could be a 1 out of 4 chance, so that's not so major. So that also otherwise you like have a long list of book. Initially, I used to get a long list of bookmark questions, but then I used filtered them eventually.
So that's a very good thing which you're highlighting, because there will be certain questions which would be very difficult, or the team is trying to make some question which is kind of like an experimental question. They're trying to test waters whether it would fit in the Q bank or not. And if you're saying less than 20% were getting it correct, then it's better not to bang your head over it, but focus more on those questions which majority were getting correct, but you did not get correct. And that's where you bookmark them.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. Moving on to the GTs, Dr. Shashwat, when did you start doing GTs?
I started during my internship. It was quite late, I know. Usually, I
Mm.
like, and I regretted that thing. Like, if I had started, I like it was late. I started in the final year, later final, then probably better. I started after my heavy posting got ended in the second half of my internship, so it took me time. So, but yeah, so like first time I got 140 correct. So but I eventually started. I focused on the then it was initially I used to give every 2 weeks one GT. Then I shifted closer to exam every 1 week one GT. So and I used to review it. And but because GTs definitely help, mainly in that they tell you which is subject that you are not getting, you are weaker in that. So I used to focus on those subjects only.
Perfect. And when you were reviewing a GT, were you reviewing all the questions or just the skipped and the wrong questions?
The skipped, the wrong, and the guessed ones, because sometimes the guess could be correct. So I used to mark even
True.
every GT 30 to 40 questions I used to mark for guess, and out of them 60% were like I'm getting correct. But still I have to go through them because it could be it could be tukka which had gotten correct. So it's not definitely I'll then again get correct in the next time in the exam. So I used to revise them also, and
Perfect.
definitely I was the wrong ones and the skipped ones.
Okay, one more question regarding the QBank, which a lot of students ask, is the volume of questions which you were doing. So, what was your volume of questions on an average day during your internship? How many questions were you solving from the QBank?
Average on during the internship, I used to solve around 50 questions, 40 to
Okay, and
50.
2 months or 3 months before the exam, did that volume go up? And if yes, what was the volume like?
Definitely it go up. I used to solve around 10 to 12 modules, which had mixed, some were shorter modules, some were larger modules. So I think around 100 to 125 questions at least, on
Oh,
usually on an average.
perfect. Perfect. Yeah, so that's great. I mean, you gradually have to keep on increasing your volume. 50 per day on an average he was doing during internship, and then he increased it to almost 100, 125 questions. Right, Dr. Shashwat, there would have been a phase, I'm sure most of the students have that phase where their performance during in their GTs plateaus or dips also sometimes. Right? You've already told me that at that time you focus on your weak subjects, but any other tips which you would like to share with students or what you did which helped you to overcome that phase?
Yeah, like in between, like initially first GT went well, but then the second third GT my performance really dipped. So I got a bit demotivated, but then I still kept focusing. I said that, so I kept focusing. I said that it's not okay, it's not a demotivation, but yeah, I have to just see it that it's just telling me what are my weak subjects and what are the focus areas I'm getting. Like ENT I always scored much well, so didn't ENT I didn't study at all in the last 6 months before the exam, because ENT I was consistently getting good answers. I then said that's okay, if I'm getting good answers, good marks in ENT, I'll not focus. FMT or psychiatry, there were a few subjects which were consistent, or in physiology, anatomy were consistently weaker. So then I kept on focused more on those subjects, and so I don't, and obviously I didn't demotivate. So I use them as a motivation. Obviously, one feels bad if the performance dips quite drastically, but yeah,
True.
it was. I just, so that's why I used to give it at the during evenings. So I gave the test, I reviewed it, I slept over it, and next day was a fresh start. Just focusing on what I had to
Excellent.
take off from it.
Excellent, excellent. So great tip that you have to let go of that performance and then focus on the next block or focus on the next set of your preparation rather than just brood over what has happened last evening. Right. Dr. Shashwat, moving on to the exam, actually, this time the exam was a bit tricky, right? Did you also feel so? How many questions did you attempt in the exam?
Yeah, exam was quite a bit unusual. So it was not,
Hmm.
you can say, very difficult, but it was not easy also. And I attempted around 196 questions.
196. And was this the average number of questions which you were attempting in the GT as well?
Yeah, in GT also I used to leave only 4 or 5 questions usually.
Perfect. So that's a very important point which I want to highlight, that GTs are your prep ground, right? The strategy which you follow in your GTs is what you're going to replicate in your exam. And as you can hear from Dr. Shashwat that he was following a similar strategy in GTs, what he did in the exam. There was no change on the day of the exam, which is very important because once we try to change something, that's where, anxiety, nervousness kicks in and we are bound to make more mistakes. Um, so Dr. Shashwat, what was your rank in the INI mock exam, which was conducted by Marrow?
uh, I'd get, because it happened in the last of my internship, and at that time we were having farewell, and that also I gave it around one
Hmm.
week later after it had ended. So I got 125, 127, I think.
Oh, perfect. But right. So once you got that rank, what was your revision strategy once you saw that rank? Were you happy? Were you sad? Was it a mixed feeling? And how did you proceed after that, leading up to your last revision before the exam?
No, before that, in the last 2 or 3 GTs, I was getting around 100. Even I got double digit rank. So I was like, that was in the last 3 or 4 GTs. That was my worst rank. So I was not very happy. But then I
Okay.
talked to my other friends. They were also saying that it was a bit question, like it was a bit that type of GT in which like maximum marks got to 190, 192, and like all of them had said that it's okay. Performance has gone up and down, and it was probably the week after the farewell, and my preparation was also a bit lagging that week, so that's why I just thought that's okay, probably that. So after that, then I gave some more GTs, and those GTs my performance improved, and I focused on the correct questions. The number of correct were still quite good. So I didn't focus much more on the rank. I focused on the number of correct that I was doing, and so that was consistent. So that I focused that. So that's good.
Last 1 month before the exam, what was your revision strategy like?
Last 1 month, so my internship had ended, so I was at home, and so I mainly focused on like the GTs I've been giving. So and for last 3 months, I had given every last 2 months I gave every week. So I was just
Hmm.
focusing on subjects which are weaker. Like I just said, like ENT, I was consistently doing better, so I didn't revise ENT much. But like those which are getting weaker, and I'm particularly I focused initially when I started in the first 1 or 2 weeks. I focused on anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry because we don't focus on the first pair of subjects, but AIMS likes to focus a lot on those subjects in the exam.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
and those are the subjects like if you get correct, so like then so that's good. And biochem and particularly they have a larger they have more weightage as compared to other short subjects and the clinical subjects. So other than I think after medicine, surgery, OBG, they have the largest weightage. And medicine, surgery, I've been studying consistently, so I just focused mainly on those. And then after that, I focused on those subjects which I was weaker. And like once I thought in 1 or 2 GTs my surgery was getting weaker, so then I said now I have to revise surgery also. So then started revising surgery, and so like that I mainly focused on those which were getting weaker. Based on GTs, I used to decide what I had to do in the next week.
Okay. Last 1 week before the exam, what was your preparation strategy like?
Last 1 week. So I focused mainly on the revision. I focused on anatomy and community medicine stats part because that mainly what they ask. So because that's quite important. And then I mainly focused on revision and those subjects which I had not studied in the last 3 months. So I revised those, or those which are quite slightly weaker. So mainly I focused on those. And it was just ultimately keeping oneself calm. And I mainly focused on the PYQs because in this time, although many PYQs were direct, and many PYQs were also which were not direct, but the similar questions were asked in some other form. So and they definitely helped me. So like even I got some of the PYQs wrong when I solved them for the first time, but later on when I repeated them on the exam, so I got them correct. I was quite confident like this is the answer. There's no second doubts.
Okay. So, Dr. Shashwat, I'm sure probably you're not going to appear for NEET PG, or maybe you do just for the fun of it. But if you had to appear for the exam and you have 20 days, what would be your advice to yourself and to other students who are in the same place right now?
So now I'll first of all if I had not completed my NEET PYQs, I'll complete the NEET PYQs, and if I've completed,
Hmm.
I'll review all of them. I'll make note of all those PYQs which all those questions which are wrong. I'll make a note of them and I'll revise them every 2 or 3 days. So and I strike them off once I'm getting them correct, and so from the list. And otherwise, I'm mainly focusing on those subjects which I'm getting weaker. And what I planned, give GT every 5 days or so. So
Okay.
and because it's not GT, I'll just try to then decide. Like I said, and INI-CET also did. Like I'll then decide what a subject I'll do in that after that. So in the next 5 days, based on the subjects that are weaker. And mainly, I focused on those subjects which I have not focused much more on INI-CET, because in INI-CET they have lesser weightage. And like community medicine, I've mainly focused on stats part because that's what they ask in INI-CET. But in NEET, they ask the entire hierarchy of community medicine, so I'll more focus on now on that, which I quite skipped mainly for the INI-CET, or like some parts
Okay.
of FMD or psychiatry, which they don't ask in INI-CET, but they ask more in NEET. So,
So, if you had to create custom modules right now, a lot of students ask us which all tags will you use during this phase?
the PYQ NEET. and
Hmm.
clinical questions, and difficulty based, and IBQs, image based.
Perfect. Before we end, Dr. Shashwat, any utility of pearls in your revision strategy?
Yeah, pearls. I pearls for those topics which I had not like for scorings, or those topics which I had not revised. They have a good quick revision, particularly those which came along with the questions in the QBank after the question. So they were quite good. Like I solved the question, if it's correct, I was reviewing it. I saw read the explanation, and then I used to go through all the pearls that are coming after that, and particularly the pearls for the scorings, because it's difficult to open it from where. And so from the notes, so I used to just open it to the pearls and go through all the scores, because scores were quite asked. They used to ask an
Mm,
INI-CET, so that
right.
was
Yeah.
helpful.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Shashwat. I think so. You have explained your journey beautifully, and this will really help other students who are preparing for their exams. Thank you for taking out time and talking to us. And once again, heartiest congratulations from the entire Marrow team.
Thank you, sir. It's been a
Thank
great
you.
journey.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.